hospitality room, the Indiana room. George Field reunion started yesterday, and today it continues, and tomorrow it continues. AT-10s.
Came back and bought that. We were going to build on them. We weren't in the right school district, so we sold it. And she lived in Phoenix before that. She said, anybody says it's been hot out there, she said, you could fry an egg on the sidewalk. She said, that's what she used to laugh. You could fry eggs out on the sidewalk.
I was a Holiday Inn out there. Yeah, 60. They opened up a big inn there in Palm Beach, California.
Palm Desert.
Palm Desert, yeah. Palm Desert. We got down, of course, they must have 200 guests down there. I think 99% of them stayed out around the swimming pool that night. They did cool off outdoors a little bit.
Yeah, worldwide, in the military army, you wore your wool uniform. And you wore it around the end of April, remember that?
Put the rest of the honeymoon right there, roaming around Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, Hollywood's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I busted my buns to try to catch up with my classmates.
I more than made up for it because I was the third man in West Tennessee to become qualified as a T6 instructor. That's what we had. We were starting a new active reserve outfit, you know, and Lord, I flew my old panty off there for 2 or 3 years.
Well, that's what happened to me up in Enid. We left that hot.
We went from T6s to C-45s to C-11s to C-46s.
All of those engine jobs.
Within about 4-year period there, yeah.
When they closed that base down in Douglas, they sent the whole gag of us up to Enid, Oklahoma. And this is now, we're talking late October, November, December. And I got up there and I got talking to the guys in the office. I said, I need some time. I'm a year behind because of POW camp. So they said, well, we'll go check you out in a T6, and if you're good enough, you can be an instructor.
Yeah, that's about what it mattered to.
I found out why they wanted me to be an instructor, because there's no heat in the airplane, and colder than all get out up there. And these guys had all kind of time, and they were just going to wait for the springtime and then pick up the T6 and be an instructor again.
Yeah.
Oh, I never thought that was so cold in my life. Just living in Kingfisher and driving 40 miles north to the base, emptying the radiator because they didn't have enough money to buy antifreeze. Leave it sit out there, Kingfisher, open the petcock and empty it again.
Oh, the good old days.
For about 6 weeks.
We got down there, we was out in 10.
It was just 300-man.
300-man 10.
They were brand new.
We still just barely had room to lie down.
Well, yeah, but you could still lie down.
Yeah,
You could lie down, but you had a hard time getting to where.
Yeah, that's right. You'd have to walk over and step on them and everything.
Well, it was better than that.
I was lucky. I got one right on the kind of dial.
Yeah, that's where we had ours. There was 4 of us from Saugon that got together, and I thought that was great.
Well, after Nuremberg, anything would be great.
Oh, yeah.
So, that was a real help.
My feet were so frostbitten in Nuremberg that they're still numb
Well,
in
my
spots.
feet still got indication of
Yeah. And whenever finally, I was living, staying by myself, and 2 guys, one game at Christie, great big hulking guy, and another guy were sleeping together. And he said, you got to come with us. About 2 in the morning, I'm laying between these 2 guys. My feet started to ache because they got warm from these big bodies next to me.
Were you in the West Compound?
I was in North.
Oh, you don't know it yet.
I was in with all them linemen and British.
In your compound, or in your barracks.
We didn't know it, but he was in a barrack on one side of the road, and I was in a barrack on the other side.
The other side.
I had a fellow right from my hometown in Frederick, Maryland, who was in Starlight District. He was in the west of the south. I never knew it till I got back home.
Yeah.
I had quite you have all kinds of experiences, all the service. But when I left Memphis to go to the Nashville Classification Center, it was in the early 43, yeah. January, I guess, January 43. Well, I walked in there, and because I had the went from Memphis, but they still gave us a bunk, you know, and I had the lower bunk. This little fellow was standing there, said, "You got this lower bunk?" And I said, "Well, I want it." I said, "Well, you want it, I want it too. You're mine." Turned out his name was Bill Ingram. And I didn't see much more of him. I didn't see anything of him. Till the day I walked through the gate up there at the Starlog and looked through, he was one of the first ones I saw. He'd just gotten shot down about a week before. T-47 pilot. He didn't get shot down, he landed in B-47. He said he ran into trouble. He landed on a German airstrip on his first mission.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Wonder what happened to him.
But he later became mayor of Memphis. In 61, 62, 63, along in there.
Well, did you hear about the guy that took a P-38, his first mission, landed in Vienna, gave it to the Germans, said, "I want to go fight the Russians. They put in prison camp to get you, Charlie."
I never heard that.
That was a fact.
Nothing over there.
But he really thought he was good enough that I just give him that lower bunk.
Yeah.
And I was determined I was going to do it. Matter of fact, I think if I hadn't gotten there, he would have moved into it.
Yeah.
And you'd had to kick him out.
And I had to kick him out, yeah.
I think he would have.
And of course, he's a little short fellow, and I was still about 6'1" at the time, you know.
In your barracks, did you know a guy who was probably about 6'2", reddish hair, pretty thin, who was pretty horribly burned in the face from a fire in a B-17?
Oh, I probably saw him, but I don't remember it, you know.
When he got to that prison camp, he had a couple of big jugs of olive oil that the Germans gave him to massage his face. And I think he went through cadets with us here, or at basic or somewhere. I remember being in a flying school with and helping him massage those damn scars. And you know, he was in pretty good shape at the time we got liberated.
You know, there were bad Germans. You know, there were some good Germans over there. Really good Germans. But they didn't have any choice in what they did.
Well, they probably had a choice. They
Well,
did it or else.
Yeah, either or else, that's right, yeah.
Our parish priest there in Los Angeles, I went back over to Europe in 47, come home in 49, and I had been, when we got liberated out of Moosburg, we were the first ones to get up to get airplanes, and 4 more airplanes to come in that day. I'd have gotten out, but the weather sucked in. We were there for 10 days. You remember that? We were stuck at Landshut, Germany, in that little airfield for 10 days. Landshut, L-A-N-D, Landshut.
Landshut,
Yeah, Landshut.
I stayed there about 3 days.
Well, I was there about 3 days, but I didn't go up right away.
We were up there. Arnold was the colonel in charge of the group. I wasn't. He pulled the ace of spades out. We went up, and they brought a whole bunch of C-47s in, and then 4 more came in. I'd have gotten out that day. But the weather sucked in. We were there for 10 days.
I don't know how I was on the road. I stayed at Moosburg for, it was a couple of weeks at least before I got out of Moosburg.
Well, that's what the problem was, the damn weather. And C-47s wouldn't fly. Hell, it was decent enough where we were there. And some guy,
blew in any kind of weather.
some joker,
War was over, so they didn't have to fly.
some Army major had a half-track full of radio equipment. I mean, there was 5 or 6 different kind of radio sets in there. Command sets, the local sets we used in airplanes and everything. And he kept telling us about this weather. Back in France was so bad, he said they can't even walk out of their barracks.
Well, I think that's where it was. It was so bad.
Probably what it was. Kept bugging him. And finally he said, all right, damn it, go ahead. So the guy starts on the radio. And he gets a hold of his P-38 group somewhere in the west of it.
France, probably.
Somewhere in France. And they came out and picked him up, and he got jumped in that airplane, and this guy took off, sitting in there on his lap.
Y'all remember that German sergeant major who was in charge, Glemnitz?
Yeah.
He came to several of our Starlog
Oh, he did?
Oh, yeah.
His daughter's coming.
Yeah, and his daughter.
Yeah, we had,
Well, you was there.
He was
interesting to talk to.
Yeah.
He was Air Force Master Sergeant.
Well, same thing as that.
I mean, equivalent.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, he was equivalent to that.
no, I was there, were you there the first year in 65 when you
Here's
built
one of
that
the dances,
Fleming's?
I was just looking to see
Popeye.
if I was there.
Where
It was in
was it?
Cincinnati.
No, I didn't make that.
That's
Yep.
the first one I made.
The other one was Simalot, Jack.
First big.
Similar.
I didn't even know that.
Simalot came. Simalot,
The assistant commander.
Yeah, Similar.
Now, I've got these
He-
ones too.
he came over too.
There's supposed to be anything this year.
The first one I made was one in
I
80.
brought the things along that I have, so that
This
I
was-
I didn't know anything about
Well,
it. I saw it in a magazine.
Well,
or an old one that I already
they
have.
had them, they didn't have them too
I
often,
could've
they
burned
had
out
them about every
a bunch
5
of
years
snacks,
after.
I don't know why I didn't think.
65.
Oh, here's
Yeah.
Bill's picture,
Well,
kid,
that's about right.
up here.
Have you heard from your
Did you go to
other
the
friend?
last one?
Yeah, I had a.
Yes, we did,
Oh,
in
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cincinnati.
He won't be
Well,
here though.
Cincinnati,
Here's-
yeah, because we see, we
Here's
went
Bill
back
and
over
uniform,
360
there
of
was
us went
one
back
of these
over.
later pictures.
Oh, that's right, that was when you made the Christmas present.
Now, you can go to that one now, but I guess there's nothing in stock. It's
Here-
stock on
here's-
it.
Well, yeah.
Well, the memorial is still there.
Yeah.
Well, the memorial's still there.
Here's Cora's husband
Yeah.
of his service
Right
picture.
outside of the field,
Well, it's about
Russian
to
field,
retire, yeah.
it's a museum.
Uh-huh.
The Polish people, God, they were just wonderful. We were the
But one
first
thing
big
we
group
could do is go
To
there.
come back.
and see
that could
the-
go back, because the Russians just pulled out
that
6
house
months
over there, you know,
before.
Yeah.
it's gonna be
They
over
still had, they had a
Oh,
face
it's,
right
yeah,
through the
I've
south.
never been
All the
there.
roads are still
Been
in
a long
existence.
time since
The
She's 101
entrance and
years
the
old
exit
now.
to
She's
the
expected to
tunnel
be here.
mark.
I bet this is probably a wedding pictures up there.
Was it the,
Where they had, wait a minute, what they had there? Well, they had the cooler,
cooler was still there in the north compound.
Wedding
It was
pictures
in the
right now,
ground, it's all
Thursday,
concrete.
July.
and they had the
Everything
fire,
else left are the brick and
WWJ
stone
Ray
supports and the
Copeland.
and it's completely covered in trees now. It's
He
bare.
was in personnel, and Miss
stuff
Peggy
here, huh?
I went
Kaufman,
back to
formerly of Harbor Beach, Michigan. The
Mooseburg in
union
80.
took place in the
Never same
Post
way. Now,
Chapel
a few of
with
those buildings
Chaplain
still
George
there.
McHugh.
The rest of it
You know
had been
that
built up
name?
into
Well, I've heard
apartment,
of
nice
that.
looking apartment houses.
But,
Nice.
you know, there were
Nuremberg.
two couples that.
No.
Well, yeah, we were right in,
Lived
well, see,
down
we were
the
right in
south.
Moosburg
Uh-huh.
50 years
And
ago.
they were up on a night flight.
People there from
Oh,
the
yeah.
14th Army.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
That was, oh, she
They
said
came
it
over
was
to-
just
Where
awful.
was
They were
the
French.
rendezvous
I'm
convention?
Oh, it was
But we
right
went,
down
we
on
got to go through a couple of
corner of
years
Third
back.
and Veteran,
They were
right there.
Okay,
Where
that's
there's a
redoing
big
one.
bank.
Right.
Well, the
These
gypsies
guys-
were still living in
Yeah.
them, 80, the gypsies were living
Oh,
in
yeah.
those
That was a
buildings.
nice place to
Well,
eat.
there are people from right there, but right beside them are brand new
Do you know
homes.
the
Yeah.
name?
An
But they still
apartment
kept
house.
them.
Ambrose
And they have a
or
beautiful
Ross?
monument.
The old Twin Pier,
Okay.
Pier church was still standing over there.
But they have a beautiful monument right in a little park
Here's a
there.
good look at that.
Supposedly.
They called me and asked me if
I don't know whether y'all ever read that thing in
Wax.
book picture.
And,
I saw
but
10,000
I had a
men
few
cry.
pictures
Yeah,
around here to
on the
build
front.
that, but
Yeah,
I
that
didn't
was-
know who they were.
And the record I cried the day the band.
He was the West compounder.
Well, Berta's daughter read it at our final dinner over in Germany.
That same thing?
That same thing she read.
Well, he
that.
might have even been on that, he's been on several.
Well, he set up this,
Pardon?
Berta set up this tour that 360 years ago.
Oh, he did, well, that's right, yeah. We had
That was, he said that killed him, that's when he turned it over to his daughter.
Yeah, I have all of
Well, he set up one too when they had
I carried them
the
all in here.
reunion out in Seattle.
Yeah.
But he's the one that set it up.
We were gonna go and already go. And it was death to the family. I mean,
Well, it was nice, they spent 5 days in Berlin and just walking down with between the walls.
Well, they used to be.
I believe I bought them.
Well, they're still there, parts of them. They still kept.
Oh, yeah.
Checkpoint Charlie all ripped up, they put $40 trillion.
Yeah, I don't think it did,
like we went over 80, we had, my
Last year was
nephew was Major
95.
General, yeah, he was our guy.
Army?
Yeah, he was in the Army, he was in charge of logistics in southwestern area of Germany. Boy, you talk about the living quarters.
Right here in Ruby City.
Oh, you do? Oh, I didn't know. Might be a lot of people inquiring for you.
Okay.
I can remember when we had this.
Well, the one's here, that's fine. Well, we'll see what
Good morning.
they may be sucking in this morning.
What's your name, Dad? It's who the... Oh,
How you doing,
You don't want to know who you are?
I was 43K a year after the 7th. Got here, I got here a year later.
Oh, now? I don't know.
Well, you can't have heard the meeting.
Sure.
Why not?
I guess that too.
Okay, you're the guy that was over in 3 different...
Kennedy, you're Kennedy, aren't you?
It's Friday morning.
I'm letting the sister ride.
I always coming out. He drove out of here. Tried to sign it.
It is about 10:25 on Friday the 13th. The crowd is starting to come. The business meeting will start in about 5 minutes.
Yes, it does.
There's a man talking to one of the registrants.
You know, what they're doing with this film is to try to convince people not to get old too quick. They say that so many people, when they get to the 70s and the 80s, why, they think, well, you know, I'm through, you know, and they begin to get old. So they made me go to the beauty shop, and they made me go to the exercise room, and such as that, and they took all this as they come along, you know, while they were there, besides interviewing me of my life story, of where I started at, and how I come to get the club, and things like that. But the idea is of the film, they said, they've been working on it for quite a long time. And I think Mrs. Adler, the lady that's going to be here this afternoon, they're here now, but they got in late last night. And she referred him to me because I had went places with her. She's an author, and she wrote a book called The Censor, and it's very popular at home. It's a thick book, and it's mostly just about older people and keep them from getting old. And so anyhow, I had been with her several times, and people seemed to be amazed that I could get around as good as I could and such as that, you know. So she recommended me, and he interviewed me from Florida for about an hour on the telephone, and he called back and told her that he would like to come up and interview me in person because he said I had answered his questions very alert and so forth. I suppose you know, your mind and looks and everything, he said, goes with getting old, of course. And so that's what they liked, and so then they came and took the 3 days there. And as soon as I said I was coming here, why, he said, oh, then we'll follow you there. So the last thing they said to me was, we'll see you at George Field. So they're supposed to arrive today. And what's going to take place, I don't know.
Play it by ear. Where you do everything else at this age for life.
But I felt very proud of it, the fact that I was selected for it, and not only that, it's a good advertisement for our Eastern Star home, where I've made my home now for 14 years, and it's good advertisement for the field here. So we'll see.
Coming out the plane, one of our cadets.
Well, some guy come in the store a while ago and he says, how many planes are you going to have there this year?
Bird that's ready to fly.
Okay, Dad.
Oh, boy.
Wipe up the rubber band and let's get her
Let me get
going.
one last picture of that pilot plane here. Give me another
Well, that's the pilot there, Mom.
I'll get you close up with it.
Oh,
Okay,
watch
ready?
out.
1, 2, 3. Good.
Oh, my goodness. We're going to be immortalized here.
Yes, sir.
That's the... I just ran up to it.
I think it would be nice to get a picture of the train.
The plane she's going up in.
This is going to be the fun part.
Yeah, I know.
Remember? You're gonna have
I remember the first time and I said, oh my God, I'm so glad it got on slack.
Can you reach that?
Put up there.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Nothing personal here.
I'm ready, yeah.
Go. Get it? There we go.
Bill and I went through this one before.
Yes, we did. We learned. I told you then it wasn't nothing personal if I was going to do, right?
Oh, Mom, I'm going to get fresh with you.
Sun's coming out just in time.
Take them off.
Okay.
How about it? Is it okay? Okay.
Except for clothes.
Okay. Now I'm going to,
Whoop.
we'll get it back.
I'll get you this. I'll take these off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
I'll take care of it. I may need it.
Now, you want to shut up once we get going, because
Yeah, I know.
your hairdo will no longer be a hairdo. Okay. I'll wait. Yeah, I'll wait till you're set and then we'll...
There goes the chase plane, CNN camera crew.
He was standing tall, that super. He was on stilts. You want that rock the hell out of the water.
Artijaro. Artijaro, small one, hand.
That's a good sounding engine.
And there she's back from the flight. 101 years old. Mom Kanori Machichin. She used to run the cadet club in Vincennes, Indiana, and then the Pleasant Memories Club.
Thing at the top halfway.
No, just stand right straight up.
Okay. So I guess I'll put up here. That's it, help me out. That's good. Oh, there. Ah,
You're up.
I'm up now.
Okay.
Oh,
So what'd you think, girl?
gee, that was nice though. Wonderful. You don't know what a beautiful country you live in until you get up here.
You're right.
I have to turn around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Right, here we go.
Put your right leg up here. Right there. I want my ladder back there, Slide on down. Slide on down.
Oh, I don't know. Keep going. Here I come.
Put your foot back. There you go. All right. That's a bigger thrill than the plane ride, wasn't it? We're down. We're down. We're not out. We're pretty, but we're down.
I just fell out there.
Just fall out. That's great.
Oh, well, I didn't.
I see people get out of there.
There she comes after a plane ride.
Wow. Wish you all could have went. So have we.
Didn't have a big enough airplane.
I was flying and we went down, we went to the runway at St. Pete, Clearwater St. Pete Airport.
Oh, wow.
We had a reunion and,
There's today's generation of our generation.
you know, they promised that. Oh, sure.
Discussing flight.
Oh, that's right. I went to his
Somebody else
Testing, 1, 2. Testing, testing. Everybody hear me out there?
Yeah, but our problem is we need to make sure that we have the correct size. It is on the side there. Okay, yes, okay, that's correct.
Here's all the group that are here waiting for the flag lowering ceremony. Here's George Field. Well, it used to be George Field, now it's called Mid-American.
He's on detail service. And he's not supposed to kill
If anyone hasn't checked in, can you hear me out there? If anyone hasn't checked in with us, please come up here and check in with us. We've got a couple of minutes before we get to the ceremony. Well, I think we can get on with the program now. I'm going to ask the colors and color guards to present arms, please. Colors and color guards, present arms. Everybody stand, let's salute the colors, please. By the numbers. 1, 2. Conrad Chaplain, come give opening prayer, please. Order arms. Almighty and eternal God, Judge over men and nations, we stand before Thee as loyal sons and daughters of our country, grateful for its splendid heritage. O Thou who hast given us this good land for our heritage, we pray Thee that we may always prove ourselves a people mindful of Thy favor and glad to do Thy will. We ask Your blessings to continue and abide upon our republic. May America ever remain free and mighty and true to her best ideals. Bless and guide the President of the United States and all public servants, that they may walk in justice before Thee, and all their acts may abound with mercy and justice for our people. We ask Your blessings upon all who serve our nation in the armed services, all who have served, and who remain loyal to You. May we who have served our country in war continue in times of peace to serve and shield America throughout all our days. May we ever be loyal to our country and to our God. Amen. I'd like for everybody to stand together and join with me in pledge allegiance to our flag of our country. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
You may cover. At this time, I'm going to call on my commander, Tom McCon, of Post 28 Martinsville, to introduce all of our guests today. Tom?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming to this ceremony. We also want to make a special thanks to Ollie DeLorean for endless hours of work to help bring this program together. In our distinguished guest list, I would like to introduce Marty Casper, who's the Senior Vice Commander of the State of Illinois Legion, Jack Cover, who's the Assistant Sergeant at Arms of the Legion of the State of Illinois, Dan Hauser, Historical Officer, State of Illinois, Pat McLaughlin, Commander of the 23rd District, Shirley Campton, President of the 23rd District, Gene Colbert, past President of the Leeds Auxiliary 23rd District, 3-time past District Commander and 5-time past President. From our local posts, we have Bill Faulkner, who's the commander of Bridgeport Post 62, and Howard Boley from Post 30 in Olney. We also want to acknowledge the presence of the Lawrenceville Ladies Auxiliary and the Olney 48 Club, who are also here in attendance, as well as it's a pleasure to have the Junior ROTC from Olney. I think that covers most all the dignitaries who are here. We hope to give you a program that is meaningful, and welcome to all the veterans of George Field on their reunion return. Bob?
Thank you, Tom. I want to welcome everybody to this reunion with George Field. At this time, this base is not closing. This is not the last reunion for George Field pilots that went through this base back in the 40s. This is just the end of a good, hard day, an enjoyable day. I hope everyone enjoyed themselves today. And now, at this time, I'm going to call on Lieutenant Colonel Paul Stallion. He has a little message he wants to read to you. Paul?
Thank you, John. Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Glad to get back to George Field and bring back a lot of memories. But what I have for you this afternoon is an article that was taken from the Prisoner of War magazine back in 1987. And it's more or less the prisoner of war's attitude or feeling towards our flag, which we see flagging sign up here, which you all know what it is. And I know you all recognize the stars and stripes. But is it saying something to you, doing something for you? Are you angered when you see it defiled or ridiculed? Does your heart beat faster? Your eyes glisten with tears when you behold it unfurled in the breeze? Or is patriotism like religion? You don't know if you've got it until you need it. I was once a young American too, and no more or less a patriotic than you. I pledged allegiance to the flag, and I sang the Star-Spangled Banner as best I could. That was until Hitler raised a heavy hand and smashed his fist into the heart of Europe, and until Japan directed a savage attack upon our shores. Then I was catapulted into a wartime world I could never have imagined. I became soldier, sailor, airman, Marine. My brother, my buddy, and I followed our flag as it billowed against the grayish sky and sea in battleship. We saw the colors ground into the sands of North Africa, shredded on the coral Corregidor, bloodied on Omaha Beach. My brother raised that flag on Iwo Jima. My buddy cried when he sighted the flag flying over his England air base as he and too few of his comrades returned from the Shrine Parade. A brother kept his eye on a tattered flag from battle to battle until the battles were no more. And for a buddy, it was the last blanket to cover his body before it was buried in foreign soil or slipped into a watery grave. And I watched our flag until it was no longer there to watch. I parachuted from a flaming plane over Germany, surrendered to an overpowering army in Bataan. I was marched along at bayonet point. I was transported like an animal to a stalag or to a jungle camp. Gaunted, taunted, barricaded, I was a prisoner of war. For days, months, and year after endless year, I existed under a flag that boasted either a rising sun or the Nazi swastika. What my captors failed to realize is that although they shaved my head, starved my body, deprived my soul, and denied me basic human rights, an American flag fluttered in my heart. Pride in what the red, white, and blue stand for buoyed my spirit. God watched over me, my compatriots sustained me, and I survived. Can you understand what a blessed, beautiful sight that flag was to me when I viewed it at last in New York or in San Francisco? Well, that flag waved to me from sea to shining sea, beckoning me back to my farm, my shop, my career, my family. That flag cried out to me, look, look, I am flying still. I always will. I did look. I wept. I thanked the Lord for returning me home to this good land. And now, friends, do something for me. Take a good look at that flag again and remember the rest of your lives exactly what it stands for. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And now we're going to call on Jack Kennedy. He is one of the committeemen help getting the reunion organized. He has a little poem he wants to read. Jack?
Thank you very much. With the permission of John Danger, I would like to read a little poem called Just a Piece of Cloth. I was with Colonel Parker in the Minutemen at Lexington to hear the shot heard around the world that began the American Revolution. I was with General Washington when he crossed the Delaware and suffered with his men in the harsh winter at Valley Forge. Did they die and fight for just a piece of cloth? I was with Ethan Allen and the Green Mountain Boys at Tonkinda, Washington, and Hancock and the Marquis de Lafayette to accept the surrender terms at Yorktown with the British playing that old European tune, the world turned upside down. Did they fight and die for just a piece of cloth? I was with Andrew Jackson and Jean Lafitte at the Battle of New Orleans in 1812. I was with Bowie, Crockett, and Travis at the Alamo. Did they fight and die just for a piece of cloth? I was with Lee and Longstreet and all the boys in gray at Gettysburg. And I was with the boys in the blue, with General Meade and Colonel Chamberlain on Little Round Top. I was with Grant in the Wilderness and at Vicksburg. And I was with both the blue and gray when our country was healed at Appomattox. Did they fight and die for just a piece of cloth? I was with Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders on San Juan Hill, and with Admiral Dewey and the Great White Fleet in the Manila Bay. I was with the Doughboys in World War I, the war to end all wars, and I now lie buried in the Flanders field. Did they fight and die for just that piece of cloth? I was with Admiral Isaac Kidd aboard the Arizona that fateful Sunday morning in 1941. I was with the infantry that landed on the beaches so far away named Omaha, Juneau, Utah, Sword and Gold. Did they fight and die just for a piece of cloth? I was with General Wainwright on Corregidor. I was with Admiral Fletcher in the Battle of the Coral Sea. I was aboard the Enterprise, won it at Yorktown at midday. Did they fight and die for just a piece of cloth? I fought at Kwajalein, the Battle of Lady Gulf, at Bloody Tarawa, Guadalcanal, and Iwo Jima, and served on destroyers on picket duty off Okinawa. Did they fight and die for just a piece of cloth? I flew Sabre jets in Mik Valley in North Korea, and I was with the Marines at the Chosin Reservoir. I was with the Navy at Incheon Harbor and fought on the hills and ridges called Bloody, Heartbreak, Old Baldy, and Porkchop. Did they fight and die for just a piece of cloth? I flew bombing missions over Hanoi and was on rat patrol in the Northern Delta. I was with the Navy on Yankee Stadium in the Tonkin Gulf. I flew night missions over Baghdad and was with the battalions in Desert Storm. Did they fight and die for just a piece of cloth? Freedom is not free. It has a price, and it has been paid many times by many people. I am an American, and I am free. Thank God. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. And at this time, we're going to honor all the veterans, not only the ones that went through this base that didn't return. We're going to honor all veterans from all states. At this time, we're going to lay a wreath in their honor. Martin Poland, would you and retired Lieutenant Colonel Stallion come forward?
Color and color guard, present arms!
At this time, we're going to honor Mom. She's known by Mom. She had a house over in Vincennes where all the cadets went. Now, I've got a name for those cadets. I call them 90-day wonders. I was in the Navy. But I'm sure that you kept a real good home over there for them at some of the USO. Now, Mom, last year I kind of got in trouble. We danced till 4 o'clock in the morning, and I don't think my mother will let me or allow me to stay out this long tomorrow night. At this time, the post president of Post 28, Open Chain, okay, and the district commander, or district president, Shirley Kempton from Effingham will now honor Mom. Wait a minute, she'll come down. Mom is 101 years old. Today, I think she took an airplane ride. Now, as I understand, didn't your son, he didn't want you to come over this time, did he?
No.
Would you like to say a few words?
Well, he thought I'd come to these reunions enough, and he said, Mom, I don't want you to go over by yourself. My eyes aren't so very good. And I said, well, there's always someone at my elbow and always someone to help me, and so I feel fine having a pain in the world with an arm, and I want to go. So he said, well, if you want to go that bad, I will. I'll not object. But he wasn't too anxious about it. But I tell you, being mom to all those beautiful boys I had in 1940s was one experience that I don't think no other woman in this United States ever had as much as I did about it. And I loved every one of them, and I enjoyed correspondence and keeping in touch with them. And I enjoy these reunions. They're just the very life of me. And I ride today, and the plains was just beautiful. The clouds were so beautiful, and the ground was so beautiful. There's just no place with any more beauty to it than the Illinois lands like this, where they're so green and productive. So I feel greatly honored to be here today, and I just hope everyone enjoys the reunion and has a good time. And I'll come back next year if they have it. Thank you.
Now, don't forget, I get the first dance tomorrow night. We could dance till 4 o'clock in the morning like we did last year. Now, at this time, I'd like to call on my senior vice commander, Department of State of Illinois, Marty. He likes to go by the name of Marty. You want to come up and say a few words?
I'm one of the younger veterans in the audience. I would go to say that I can't stress how important reunions, how important the remembrances of our past are, and that I task each one of you veterans, all of the veterans here, to take a few minutes. And we heard two things read about our flag. We're here for a specific reason. 60 to 80 people came back for the reunion. Today is what one of the gentlemen told me a while ago, for a reason. And we hear a lot about our young people not caring about history. Maybe we're not telling them the real history. Maybe we should take a few minutes to talk to our children and our grandchildren about our history. They think history comes out of a book. They don't understand sometimes that we are history, that each one of us as veterans have a story and are a piece of that history. The story of George Field and all the people who were trained here. How many of you have taken a few minutes to tell your family, your grandchildren, about George Field and what it was all about and why it was? I think those are lessons that we have to slow down and think about. I happen to be a career soldier. I'm just finishing the end of a 26-year military career. And I came home one afternoon, and my son was sitting on the workbench in my garage. And I changed clothes and went around into the garage, and he said, "Dad, are you a lifer?" Now, we live in a civilian community. And I said, "Where did you ever get that word?" He was probably 8 or 9 years old at that time. He said, "One of the kids at school told me that you must be a lifer." And he's 9 years old, and it took me a while to explain to him what lifer meant. He didn't know what lifer meant. He just knew some kid asked him. And I explained, yes, I was a career soldier. And that got me to thinking several years ago about how many times we don't tell our kids about it, what we are as veterans. Remembrances like this are important, and we want to never forget those. And that's what I would task you to go back and tell someone about your piece of history, and make them understand that World War II and all the conflicts are much more than what they read in that book. It was people. And that's where our young people don't get the connection now. I also want to extend greetings from the Department of Illinois, from 160,000 plus veterans and members of the Department of Illinois. And I thank you for the invitation and the ability to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. All big men, popular men, they don't come from the big city. I've got to tell you, Marty, he comes from a little town, I think he said about 50 population, west of Champaign, Illinois. Little town called DeLand, post 102. Is that right, Marty?
That's right, 450 strong.
One old grouch when you're gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the next gentleman I'm going to call on, the Conrad, he's had so many titles on post level, in the district, in the state. He's right now the state assistant sergeant of arms. He's got something to do with the Vietnam vets and everything. He has, he's going to tell you about the Flag Alliance. Jack Colbert from Robson Post 69.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, and all you veterans out there, if you're ready for this, mine's going to take about an hour and a half. These others were short. Are you ready for this? I'll cut it down. My commander over here told me that I had to. Bob was right. It's nothing Vietnam, but it was a Korean pen that I designed that sold over $130,000 worth now for the Korean Wall in Washington, D.C. But thank you for the recognition, Bob, anyhow. Mine, I'm going to have to read part of this. As my wife said back here, without her being around me, I couldn't do the things that I'm doing, but I work better under pressure. I did this in the last 30 minutes before I left home. And if I'm on the Citizen Flag Alliance, I thought it would be very fitting today to try to put this together, so if you'll bear with me. I've got a little cold, I'm hoarse in the throat, so I'm going to read this to you. No podium here, but the good Lord's willing and the creeks don't rise, we'll get through this in just about a minute. The title of this I made is Old Glory Needs Our Help. I personally, as do millions of others, Americans in our great United States, do think this is a very fitting title. Old Glory, it does need help. There are some Americans who would be for, excuse me, there are some Americans who would deface our U.S. flag, then wrap themselves in the protection of the Constitution. This outrageous conduct ignores what the flag is, what it represents. This flag is more than a piece of cloth. It is our sacred national symbol. Its fabric is the fabric of America. To the bold stripes of the courageous, the dynamic people, the bright stars of the tolerant and the just society. We would not let the fabric of our nation to be torn, nor can we allow our flag to be publicly desecrated. While the amendment narrowly missed passage in the Senate in December 45, it is clear that deep support exists both in the United States House and the Senate for a constitutional amendment that would prohibit desecration, outlawing flag burning and other acts that deface the U.S. flag. Just pick up very clearly, those of you that hasn't read about it, try to find out, because it's in your local newspaper, it made nationwide. The Phoenix Art Institute. Here's a small summarization of this. The most recent act was the Phoenix Art Museum unveiled a special exhibit earlier this year. Old Glory, the American flag in the contemporary art. It drew a lot of crowds, and it drew far from most who found the works a terrible and horrible example of a flag desecration. In the name of art, which should be beautiful and inspirational of all American works of art, it was shown stuffed in a toilet, trampled on underfoot. There are some that would think this being trivial, but the saddest thing in the museum would be the tour of children and the youth that went through to see this. To see the faces of these, excuse me, of these children who was taught Pledge of Allegiance, and what their parents taught them with what they saw in the toilet and the dirty floor of that museum. We all need to remember the most as we as Americans go to vote this year for our leaders, how they voted for or against the flag. We have to remember that when we go to the poll, and all of you need to please get out and vote. My summarization of it, and I've written to the Citizen Flag Alliance that went to this exhibit out there, is these people here that think that they can do this and get away with it, they either love our country or leave it. They wouldn't be gone long till they beg to come up to our good, great, wonderful United States. With that, I'll close off here now and drop the other 30 minutes that I had going on here, but food for thought is God bless each and every one of you, our great United States. God bless America, and all of you have a safe journey home. And thank you.
If you can stand one more poem, I will read one. How soon some forget that the battle of freedom, the battle for freedom is won at a great price. We remember with gratitude and mourn the loss of our brave comrades who gave their lives in service to our country, but also we must not forget the families, the friends that they left behind. The pain, the sorrow will never fade away. Now at this time I'm going to ask the flag bearers to lower the state flags. Peter, do you want to come forward? I think everyone's got a sheet of the music, the grand old flag. At the time we start lowering our flag, you all will follow a peanut here and sing the grand old flag.
We're going to go through this 3 times, so I expect that by the 3rd time, I can't hear myself. All I want to hear is you all. Now, Louie, you know I have a loud voice. I don't really need that microphone. Okay, Mary, I think this will work. You're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats beneath the red, white, and blue, where there's never a ghost or brag. Should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats beneath the red, white, and blue, where there's never a ghost or drag. Let an old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. You're a grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever in peace may you wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true neath the red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. That good old acquaintance be, for that people lie on the grand old flag.
I have before me, clutched to my breast, the symbol of our collective hopes and freedoms as Americans. The symbol that many of you fought for. The symbol that many of you trained for here. The symbol that many of your families paid the supreme sacrifice. The symbol that each one of you veterans will have taken from your casket and given to your families moments before your burial. The symbol that each person that has served in the military of the United States and died in conflict had removed from his grave and given, or his casket, and given to his wife or mother or sister. Old Glory, the Stars and Stripes, the symbol of our country. It is with the highest of personal privilege and honor at this time, on behalf of the veterans of all wars of the United States of America, that I present this flag to Ali DeLorean. May it ever fly free over the land of the free and the home of the brave. Allie.
I didn't know I was supposed to give a speech, but I have tears in my eyes because I've been through this before. I am so ever grateful for everybody that's here today. On behalf of the George Field Association, this is a very, very special time in our life each year. This is our 5th reunion, and it seems like we make new friends each and every time. And we just want to thank everybody for coming, and I want to thank all you nice people for the fantastic job that you give us each year. And we're indebted to these gentlemen, and if you ever saw a nicer person than Bob Wager here, I would like to meet him. Thank you all very much. God bless you.
Fire squad, ready, aim, fire!
Thanks for all of their hard work.
Just a minute.
These last 5 years. There's a little small gift from you, sir.
I don't do things like this for things like this. Thank you.
Take it when you got the
But you wanted me to have
I got
Gonna cry. I don't mean cry, baby. You want to put it on?
Want me to put it on? Oh, that trouble I had last
You know
year?
what happens when you pin a girl, don't you?
Well,
This wife here.
she's videoing it.
These widows love hugs. I guess you know I hug a lot of people, don't you?
It's been so long, I haven't put one of these on since last year, and I had trouble then.
Take off your hat to do it. Hey, Jack, take off your hat to do it.
What?
Take off your hat to do it.
that, she said.
Yeah, that's like a gentleman, Jack.
If your hands are cold, put gloves on.
Which way? Well, I better take off something.
Hey, I can't see anything, Jack.
Wait a minute, John, wait a minute. Turn around.
Get up on the table.
Come on, Michael.
One way, the stick, and you go out.
Scratch it.
You're taking off line time there, Jack. You nervous?
Stranger in the house, huh?
I've tried. It just don't work. Not
What's the landscape?
No, I got
please don't talk about it.
Here's another vocal by Harry Landers. I call it Captain Harry. You ready, Harry?
Please don't talk about me when I'm gone. Remember our friendship ceases from now on. And if you can't say anything real nice,
It's better not to talk at all, is my advice. Now in party you go your way, I'll go mine, it's best that we do. Now here's a kiss and I'm hoping this brings lots of luck to you. Makes no difference how I carry on. Please don't talk about me when I'm gone. Please don't talk about me when I'm and if you can't say anything real nice, it's better not to talk at all in my advice. Now in party you go your way, I'll go mine, it's best that we do. Talk about me, please don't talk about me, please don't talk about me when I'm gone.
Shucks, gotta wait till I fill it up now. Lipstick on.
Okay, guys, gals, everybody right here, a little smile for me, please. That's good, right like that. Ready? 1, 2, on 3. Good. Whoop.
See, it's a good thing.
Okay, here we go, guys. Punch him out for a minute.
You know, for the mayor.
You ready, Joey?
Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
I gotta make it a working house for the band.
I'm gonna write words oh so sweet. They're gonna knock you off of your feet. A lot of kisses at the bottom. You'll be glad you got 'em. I'm gonna smile and say, I hope you're feeling better. And close with love the way we do. I'm gonna sit right down and write myself a letter and make believe it came from you.
That's all I like.
There's some more food over there, so you can put it.
Caisson. Army. Army Airfield. Caissons go rolling along. There's a way.
Mean are a thunder and a boy in the gun. Down with eyes and left from under, off with one hell of a roll. Anything of a gun flame.
We got a few more numbers if you want us to play them. You've been a simple audience, so we want to do what you want us to do. As you can see, what is that word? We believe in polygamy because we don't have enough wives.
In old Joe's bar room on the corner of the square. Now drinks were being served as usual, and a goodly crowd was there. When up stepped old Joe McGetty, and his eyes were bloodshot red as he told to me his story. This is what he said. I went down to St. James Infirmary. I found my sweetheart there. She was lying on a long white table, so cold, so bare. There were 16 cold black
horses hitched to a rubber-tired hack. There were 7 women going to that
Sing the glory of the coming of the Lord. He has trampled out the vintage where the grapes of wrath were stored. He has loosed his faithful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah.
Mom Canoer's house that she lived in Emerson, Indiana.
Here we, yeah, let's see. We invaded. Martha Charlie to
Cameraman! Get rid of it. We paid $1,500 for it. It has 4 rooms, 4 nice big rooms. And so my husband was the operator for the railroad here, telegraph operator. And we had 3 trains a day that stopped here. And this was all a wide open ditch here, and I guess a little of it is left here yet. And it had a nice big front porch to it, and I had a porch swing out there, and that's where we lived mostly. And there was big trees on each side of it. And we thought at the time that it was a pretty home, you know. And so we had it. He made pretty good money for those days. So we had furnished it nice, and I was very proud of it. And we finally bought a new piano. And there were people living right on the corner up there, a couple. Their names was Crawford. They called him, let's see, I think most people called him Bud. I was trying to think of his real name. Well, anyhow, this couple was very good friends of ours. So they said, well, why don't we have some dances down there after we got the piano? So we drove back the rug and invited 3 or 4 couples in, and we danced in the front room and out on the porch there. And we had a lot of fun for, I don't know, a year or 2 that lasted. And so then I got a job at the little store up here, $15 a week, and I worked there for almost a year, I guess, and it was just a general store. We sold everything from nails and harness to dry goods and groceries and everything.
We can go over there in just a second. You can tell us right there.
So I could go out at the back here and in the back door.
And that was her first store in Emerson, Indiana.
Oh. Here, because they had to move it out of this building and close it up, the big building. There was a big 2-story building there. And so we brought it across here, and he pushed the storage back just a little bit and made room for me there. And he said, no, that'll make you $1 a day, and so that'll help. And I had 2 boys to support them, you see. So I did that, and then I fixed sandwiches for the school children over there, and they got coming over here, and they come over to the post office to see whether they had mail, whether they did or not, just to see wait. And so I fixed sandwiches first, then they wanted ice cream, and they put in the thanks to hold the ice cream in the other store. And so we put the bread in there. Then I decided that it was in the Depression years, and here was just a you know, they used to fly them around and drop down in the fields and take people rides for $10 a time. And it dropped down right in one of the fields out there close to the highway. And of course everybody went down to see it, and nobody would ride in it. And so I said, well, I will. And my husband said, well, you would. And I said, yes, I will. I said, I've got $10, and that's what it cost. So I paid the $10, and it was just a 2-seater thing, you know, and all open, and they like to blow my hair and everything. But I took the ride, and I came back down. And so one lady said to me, said, aren't you ashamed to do that? And I said, why should I be ashamed? She said, well, look what's going to happen to you, to these two little boys. I said, well, I wasn't expecting things to happen. I just wanted to take the ride. So that's when I should have bought 2 dozen and got them cheaper. But I knew the traveling salesmen and people at the furnished flat store over there, because we're all friends of mine. And I had worked there about a year where I got acquainted with them. So then I began to stock the shelves. And so we pushed it back once, and then we got crowded in this room, and our history because we're out, so we pushed it back again. And so 3 times we pushed it back and started. And I stayed here 13 years, and the boys went, when they had to go to high school, they had to go to Old Town, which is 5 miles up the way. And so they went, they had to drive and furnish their own way. So I got them an old car, and they drove Old Town, and both of them graduated there. And then they went to Terre-Haute and went to business school. And they worked for their meals, and I paid the tuition. And anytime I put $1 in an envelope, it's been going for spending money. And they got through, both of them. They grew up to make real good businessmen. My oldest boy stayed with General Motors for 40 years, and they turned him loose and said he had all the credits and everything, and 65 when he was 60. And then the youngest boy went to, he was kind of puny, and he had pneumonia, and he had scar tissue on his lung. So neither one of them went to the service for that reason. The oldest boy, they kept him, he was on making tanks for General Motors. I guess it was guns, and they call them tanks, didn't they? I don't know. Anyhow, they were the big guns that they were making to use in the field at that time. And he was going to enlist, and he got as far as the enlistment, and the doctor said, no, you'll never be in any of the services because of the condition of his lungs. So then he went to Arizona, and they told him, he says, if you're smart, you're going to drive country because you're going to have TB here in no time. So he went out there, and then when the war was over, I followed him. That's when I come to good opinion.
So if we can just get back to the store for 1 second, you said you're on your own, you've got the 2 boys to support, and it's a depression. Tell me what you did next.
Well, of course I lived over there, and I remortgaged that home, and I paid $6 a month on the mortgage. Doesn't that seem like such a little bit now, but it was a lot then. And and my business grew. And of course when the boys came home, we took chickens and eggs and rabbits, and let's see what else. We put a big sack of rabbits on the train every evening to go into the city in the morning. And I think I paid $0.10 for them, and we got 15 or 20 cents for them. And the boys had to sack those rabbits and take them to the... And so as soon as they got home from school, you know, I put them to work in the store. But there was a lady who lived on this corner, and she and her husband, and she had no children. And she liked to come over and be with me, and she kept the store a long time if I had to be gone. She'd look after the store in the afternoon. So we just run it that way for a long time because there was eggs crates to make, and we took eggs and chickens and butter and rabbits for money.
And this was during the Depression?
So then I finally worked out of it, and things got better, and the store was pretty good. And I gave it up here. It was running pretty good. I sold out to somebody, I don't know who these boys now. And then I was lucky enough to sell the homes to people I knew. And then I believe that's when I went to Detroit and stayed with the boys. My health gave way. I had a good many worries and things, and I had a blood clot, which kept me being on my feet a lot. So I went to Michigan and stayed with the boys, and they rented an apartment, and I stayed up there a year. Then I came back to Vincennes and started the little store that I was telling you about there.
Right. If you were to walk in the store back then, how was it laid out inside as far as that?
The store?
Right.
Well, we had the post office like in this corner, and then we had the counters. I had all dry goods and things like that, and groceries all on this side. and counters there. And of course you ring everything, you added everything up on the, I had a cash register, but you had to add it and ring it on the register, you know. And so, but this side was off that. So I had got into carrying all things that farmers needed. I had nails and a little bit of hardware of different kinds, and such as that, you know, and the rest of it just groceries. I didn't try to carry dry goods over here. But
we're going in for the open house.
that's where I think I shouldn't have did that.
That's where you
without
get the information.
background. But he was there and doing all this before they knew about him. And so he got out in a hurry, and I don't know where he went from there. I never did hear anything more about him.
Other than you knew he got caught.
That's what they said.
Like to
That's what
find
I was
out.
told.
We need to find out more about that sometime.
Well,
You know that history. We find out his name.
yeah.
It's on the pictures, but it's hard to read.
It's hard to read. I didn't remember the name myself, and I didn't have anything to refer back to it in any way. And, but I thought the little chickens were on there and all that stuff was kind of cute.
They were recording. And there's Mom and there's Allie. Right in the cadet club, right, Mom?
That's right.
Yep.
Right in it.
This is a great day.
The end time is 1 o'clock.
Today's the 14th.
September
14th, isn't it?
14th, 1996.
Yep. That's it.
The day will always live in infamy.
That's right.
Way back then, Mom was our chaperone. Today, we are her chaperone.
Things changed in 50 years.
That's right. Our roles have reversed. But she's still our mom. Yep. Will always be our mom. That's right.
Thank you, girl.
Got enough? Yep, yeah.
Okay.
That may have come at the right time.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for coming in. Do you live here?
I live in South Carolina.
Where?
South Carolina.
Oh,
The centerpiece at Georgetown Association presented. We will use it tonight at a dinner.
I'm probably ready.
Yeah.
Just get too hot.
No, you'll be all right.
All right.
Okay. But look right here, big smile. And we'll go again.
Okay.
We were behaving too.
Think we'll ever see him? I hope so. I hope so. I hope so.
Whenever you want to move, you'll finish. This I don't need you posing.
Don't need them posing.
No, I should catch him even better this way.
Just get one picture in my good work.
Come on, Annie, we're making history. Get in the corner now. The light is not in. We're continuing history.
CNN crew.
Continuing.
That's the CNN crew.
Mom, we're going to get one on the other side.
A few weeks ago, yeah.
How about one with
This isn't for sale.
you can get in there.
This one's not for sale.
You're not looking at me. Mom, hi. Over here, over here. Wait, wait, wait. Now we'll go.
Off her glasses.
Perfect. I think I got to tail in the flowers
Yeah,
then.
CNN sometime this fall, right?
One more. One more.
Get over here, Raymond. That's one. Okay.
No, she was.
I believe
I
her.
remember the host.
I believe her.
I know she was.
I believe
Same
her.
voice, same smile,
Oh.
same like.
You should have heard her when she was mad.
No, I never saw her mad. I always saw her.
Did you ever get mad, Mom? Did you ever get mad? It's not very big a lot, go.
Well, when I zoom in, I lose light.
Out here's good too. Oh, how we danced on the night we were wed.
Yeah, I got it. Now I got a nice bright light.
We'd pull it down, let you and John sit there.
First time we'd ever been asked to play for a bunch of war heroes. They told us when we come down here that you guys won World War II single-handed, individually and as a group. And we hope that you have a good time and renew some old acquaintances, have some fond memories. And to get on with the program, I'll introduce first the youngest, handsomest, most versatile fellow that we have in our group tonight with us, and the only one of the bunch that's not on Medicare and Social Security, Mr. Rick's little boy Terry. He's also my son, okay? And next, we've got a young fellow with us. I mean, he is, he's Marshall, Illinois' oldest teenager, the way we talk about him. Fellow on the piano back here, he's 91 years young, Mr. Trump. He was old enough that he wasn't even drafted for World War II. And of course, we've only got one real musician in the crowd tonight. Most of us are just hummers and strummers, but we've got one fellow that does no music. The fellow on the tenor guitar, Mr. John Dickerson over here. And of course, we've got one fellow here that he's really a versatile guy. He plays the banjo, he plays the guitar, just about anything you hand to him. And he's a very young, talented looking young fellow anyway. The guy that's named after Mr. Jesse Maxwell. And myself, I'm from over Melrose way. I kind of strum around on the mandolin a little bit and do a lot of the talking. They call me a lippy. Bert Riggs, over Melrose. And to get on with the show, I almost forgot. Yeah. This fella here with the red
Is that guitar really, he's never got it, but I mean, it's really a pleasure, to work for them on this bunch. So I think what we'd like to do now is to sit down and we'll play a couple of old country tunes called Raggedy Ann and Red Wing. And depending on how well it's received, if you like that sort of thing, let us know. We might add another one called Chinese Breakdown.
You know, I couldn't get on a train to leave Baltimore to go to Greensboro, North Carolina. So they sent me back to camp. I spent a few hours there, gave me a Denolian route, and I went to Kearns, Utah, and from there to Guam. And you know what I was teaching? Them Japanese people, they don't understand a thing. I was talking to them in Polish and instructed them all while I was there, and none of them could read, write, or speak Polish up until today.
Thank you, Joe.
You're a good boy, Joe.
How many are here for the first time? Stand up. Now, let's start with, what, 42? Anybody here from classes in 42? Classes in 43? Okay, stand up and tell us what class.
J.
43J.
K.
K.
I.
I.
C. D.
E. E.
F.
H. H. That was pretty good. How about 44 now?
No. 44B.
Okay. F and G. F and G. Okay. A. 44A. Okay. Let's see, troop carrier. Everybody in troop carrier. Yes. Stand up. Okay, let's, 8th Air Force. Two. Instructors. How many instructors are there? Okay, 2.
Stand up and say who you are. We don't know you.
Stand up and tell us your name.
Come on.
White Hall, Perry Van.
Now we know who the meat guys were.
How many have been here to all 5 reunions? She's not going to stand up. How many been here to 4 reunions? How many been here to 3?
Good.
Anybody like to reminisce a little bit? 3 minutes. Who'd like to reminisce? Nobody? No
Come on,
volunteers?
Greg. Greg? Greg, we need a speech. Come on, Marilyn, we need a speech. Hey, we got one. It's all right, we'll have 2. I'll get Ray up there. We'll let them talk at the same time. Okay.
Oh, okay. I couldn't pass this up. 3 minutes. It was very nice of you to, the music was fantastic. I remember that from my youth when I made a little crystal radio and used to get the clear channel stations from Nashville and other places. And it was nice of you to provide the German chocolate cake in honor of Mr. Mueller over there, who was a German pianist. I grew up in the hills of Pennsylvania and thought that I was Pennsylvania Dutch, because that's what they called it, the people that lived there. And son of a gun, all of a sudden one day, after being fantastically taught how to fly here and combat trained and everything's over there, and some lucky guys shot me down and landed, was captured by a bunch of Bulgarians who couldn't even speak Polish either. And all these, and then all of a sudden they turn us over to these Germans, and son of a gun, all these damn German soldiers are running all over the Balkans speaking Pennsylvania Dutch. I couldn't figure it out. I figured that, man, I had been misled for a long, long time. Finally, I got home, met a fantastically beautiful girl who was the little sister of my navigator, who had started out with me in pilot training at Maxwell, and got washed out in primary, and I discovered that the reason was that they needed pilots, they needed navigators more than pilots, so they made him a navigator. He could fly better than my co-pilot, who was a rated pilot. And one day he took me home and introduced me to his little sister, much against his will. His wife made him do it, because she didn't really know about me. She had this romantic, mythical notion about people that graduated from George Field. And okay, so she had filled this young maiden's head full of stories about these airplane drivers with their silver wings and what really nice, all red-blooded American boys they are. And she married me, and we've been together only 48 years. And I practiced, I don't remember, Mom, I think this is a ringer, because I'm sure she wasn't here 50 years ago. You can't kid me. You don't look like this and be anywhere 50 years later. Even us. And we are on a trip this summer for, this is our first reunion. We leave tomorrow for Chattanooga, where we got rooms in the Chattanooga Choo-Choo Hotel, would you believe, on track 29. The 98 Bomb Group is having a big reunion, and I belonged to them for a short period of time before they declared me MIA, and in 1944. And when finally I got old enough and went to the VA in 1984, figured I could use some medical help, they looked up in the records and discovered that I was still listed as MIA. And so I said, oh, hey, fantastic, because I got out my little pencil and I said, well, we weren't making much in those days, what, about $200 a month? Yeah. So $200 a month times 45 years, compound. I said, hey, you owe me the Pentagon. So then they said, oh, you must have been a POW. And so I ended up with free license plates, which is fantastic. I just wanted to tell one thing. Looking around this crowd, meeting these guys around here, I discovered there are several hearing impaired people. And this is a thing that happens to airplane drivers. The pilots are hearing impaired in their left ear, the co-pilots in their right ear, the instructors in their right ear, except when they were flying in the other seat because they got both ears. Bombardiers and navigators were deaf in all ears, and crew members were deaf too. So this is a hazard of the occupation that we used to belong to. But you guys look like, the guys I'm used to, because I volunteer at the VA and I get to meet other veterans. And the VA up in Rhode Island, at least, has started a new procedure where they've discovered that people that come in for help can't hear what the hell the doctor's telling them anyhow. Even though the guy's lying through his teeth and doesn't know what he's talking about. But they can't hear him anyhow, so you're encouraged to bring your wife along. And then while you're in there getting dressed and wiping all the Vaseline off your behind, the doctor explains to your wife what the whole thing was about. So this wife was listening to the doctor and said, well, your husband has a special case here. He is getting to that age where things are going wrong. And what you're going to have to do is cater to him. If you don't, this guy's going to die. You've got to take care of him. You've got to make sure that you feed him right. There's no fat, low carbohydrate, high vitamin, high fiber. If you don't, this guy's going to die. You have to make sure he goes to bed or he'll die. You got to make sure that he does some exercise or this guy's going to die. And, even to the extent that you've got to take care of him because he is probably getting a little strange and may want sex at odd times or peculiar types of things. And the wife would say, oh, and the doctor said, you got to do these things or he'll die. So, okay, finally they get in the car and they're driving home. And the husband finally came to and says, I think he heard it, came to and says, hey, well, what did the doctor tell you? The wife looked over at him kind of sadly and says, you're going to die.
Who's next?
I think we got one right here.
First or second.
Our 45th.
Great.
Birthdays.
Anybody else got stories? Come on, guys.
How about birthdays? Anybody got a birthday today? Don't get, nobody has them anymore. They're 39 and hold it. Is that right? That's my problem.
I'd like to hear more stories, you guys. Come on.
They're so full they can't talk. Is that right?
Instructors have got a good one they can tell.
All lies.
Don't be bad. We love lies. Come on. I think Mr. Hughes is the oldest cadet here, aren't you, Mr.
Ask if
Hughes?
any wife wants to relate.
Could be.
Okay, we'll give all the fellas a chance and nobody wants to talk. How about some of you wives? Would you like to say something to reminisce about?
Especially about your husband.
Here, Pauline, this is your chance. You want to come? No? That's funny.
He said all she needs to say.
She has? Joe, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I'll tell one on them. They celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. Was it the 18th? And we went up to Akron to help them celebrate it. So let's give Joe and Pauline. Well, if everybody's bashful, then we'll turn it over to Jim Osborne. I know he's going to say a few words of wisdom for us. Okay. Well, thank you, Bert. Some of you folks I've seen before, and some I haven't. Some I got to meet today for the first time or last night, and certainly a pleasure. I am one of those from the generation after World War II, born at the end of World War II, so the sum total of what I know about your experiences and what I know about World War II has been gleaned from classes and books and whatever documentaries you watch on television, but most importantly from the stories that I get directly from people like you. And it's been one of the great pleasures in my life. It has been to have the opportunity to talk to so many people like you, to talk to you folks each time you come back to the reunion, to talk to other World War II veterans that come to Vincennes and some that I've traveled to meet. And not only just the veterans, but whether you were an officer or enlisted man or your wives or your sweethearts or the people that stayed at home and worked in the factories, you all made up an important mosaic that brought about that ultimate victory in World War II. And each of you had a particular story, and each of you had a particular part in that victory that took place. And so each of you are credited in some way for bringing that all about. And each of you have interesting stories to tell. I only regret that the time is so limited to get a chance to talk to you when you come back to Vincennes and when we have a chance to visit for maybe sometimes just a few minutes. There are so many things that we want to hear. We want to hear these stories because we don't want to lose these stories. You played an important part in history. I firmly believe that you're part of a vanishing breed. World War II, as we know it, or as I understand it, I think was one of those rare times in history when the difference between right and wrong and good and evil was so easily distinguishable. Seldom has there been events in history, conflicts of that magnitude, in which that was so clearly defined, and in which you can be so proud to have taken part in what ultimately occurred, and that was the victory that took place over the carnage and the evil that was going on in the world. I really think that very few times in history has there been the opportunity for people like you to do so much in the right direction and in such a positive way. I know that the sacrifices that you had to make, that your families had to make, the ultimate sacrifice that many of your friends and buddies had to make, of course, was costly. But it had to be done, and it was done for the right reasons. So, stories like that are important to me, and in World War II and the history of World War II has been very important to me over the years. And I think some of those of you that know my interest realize that I've probably taken it to an extreme. If you visited the Cadet Club today, you probably saw some of the end results of that in the basement or on the third floor. Or if you made it out to the museum out on Bruceville Road, you can see the overflow out there too. But that all needs to be preserved. The stories about World War II, the artifacts, etc., all represent what you fellows did, and what your wives and sweethearts also did to play that important part in history. But there are some things in particular that we want to talk about, and one thing I want to talk about tonight and wrap up about our guest of honor and what part of history that represents. A few years ago, when I knew that a particular house here in town was going to be for sale, I was very interested for a couple of reasons. One, it was a very beautiful home, but more importantly to me, it was the one home in Vincennes that represented World War II history, and that was what had formerly been the Cadet Club. And over all the years that I had studied about George Field, or tried to learn things about what happened over at George Field and so forth, you could just glean a little bit of information here and there. Once in a while you'd find one of the old class books. All of you fellows named the particular classes. Well, each one of you, as you recall, had the class book, had your photographs in the class book, but it also had a lot of photographs of George Field. And in practically every one of those class books that I've ever come across, there are always 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 photos of the Cadet Club and the activities of the Cadet Club. And in most of those photos, you will see a kind, sweet, gray-haired lady who always appeared to be there smiling and greeting the soldiers and talking to the girls and so forth in the photos. And she was always kind of the focal point in these photos. Over the years, I wondered, boy, who is that lady? It says in the book, Mom Canoyer. And of course, I asked people, well, where's Mom Canoyer? What happened to Mom Canoyer? Well, we don't know. And I went to the phone book one time to see if there's any Canoyers. There weren't. So I continued over the years to kind of ask the same question. People would say, well, we just don't know. We don't know. She moved away after the war, and we don't know. And so the quest went on over a period of time. This is maybe 10 years ago that I first started wondering about Mom Canoyer. And the one thing, of course, that I was certain of was that Mom Canoyer is probably long gone. And so I one day was at the bank, and Dr. Dason, the local doctor, was there, and somehow we got to talking about George Field. And he said, he said Merle Canoyer was some relative of mine, and she was the cadet hostess at the Cadet Club. And I said, oh, really? And I said, well, where's she at? And he says, oh, I don't know. She's got to be dead. And so again, confirmed my belief already that Mom Canoyer has passed on long ago, and but at least I would like to know at least where she was and what happened to her and so forth. Well, to make a long story short, about approximately 4 years ago, came home one afternoon. This was after purchasing the Cadet Club and after starting restoration on the Cadet Club, and I came to the mailbox, and there was a letter waiting, and this was after the first George Field reunion had taken place. And there was a letter, and it was from Merle McCaffrey, and I opened the letter, read it, and it was, gee, I'd like to know a little bit about what's happening at 502 Broadway, that's the address, and do you still put the Christmas tree up in the front hallway foyer by the staircase, and mentioned a few other familiar things about the house. And I sat there and read the letter again, and I thought, well, I wonder who this is. I mean, if they know about the Cadet Club and they know about the World War II history, I bet this is one of the old cadet hostesses. This has got to be somebody that was here during that time. And so I proceeded to write a letter back to Mrs. McCaffrey. And I described it. Yes, we still put the Christmas tree in the foyer, and the house looks like this, and this is what I've done to try to restore it and bring it back to some of its former splendor, and described that in some detail to her, and told her my interest, of course, in the history of the house, and the history of the Cadet Club, and the history of World War II, etc. And again, not really knowing much more than that about who Merle McEffern was, except that she is a lady who was interested in the Cadet Club. And a few weeks went by, and got to thinking about it a little bit more, and my wife and I had read the letter again and thought about it, and my wife said, you know, could that be the former cadet hostess, Mom Knoyer? And I said, well, first of all, that's not the name that's on here. It's McEffern, and I'm not really sure what her first name was, but it's always Mom, so maybe her name could be Merle. And also, I said to my wife very assuredly, I said, plus, I said, you know, she'd have to be 100 years old. She's got to be dead. Well, anyhow, about that time, a package arrived in the mail, and it was about this thick, and I opened it up, and it said, George Field scrapbook, blue cover, got the planes on the cover, and it says George Field, and you open it up, and the first picture is a big picture of Mom Knoyer, and you open it up a little further, and it's all of the articles that appeared in the paper, and it was photographs of the cadets, and it was photos taken during the club for over a period of 2 or 3 years, printed invitations, everything that you could possibly want to know or hear about the Cadet Club seemed to be in this 3 or 4 inch thick booklet. And suddenly, it just dawned on me, this is Mom Knoyer, and Mom Knoyer sent a nice little letter along, and Mrs. McEffern, and it just, the light came on. Mom's still around. And Mom had just sent me one of the greatest gifts that I could ever think of. Someone who had tried to restore this house, so much interested in history, so much interested in the Cadet Club, and here was a total scrapbook that this lady had kept all during those years of the Cadet Club and of the activities that took place there. And I sat down and got chills and read this and looked through it, and of course immediately wrote back a letter exclaiming, how thankful I was, and also how much I was surprised that she was one and the same Mom Knoyer. And needless to say, my letter was followed with a rather lengthy letter with bushels and bushels of questions that I wanted to know about the Cadet Club and the activities and everything that took place there. And then it all started. Mom and I started exchanging letters. I'd get these lengthy letters back, and in great detail she would describe everything that took place there. And she would even send me little sketches of the floor plans of the house and where every piece of furniture was and what each room was used for, and in complete accuracy. So I was just absolutely amazed. So that was the beginning, and this is how we came in touch with Mom Knoyer some 4 years ago, and she's been coming back to the reunion since that time. An amazing lady, an absolutely amazing individual, one of those rare people that you meet in life that you have so few occasions to meet. And as you all know, now 101 years old, promising to be back next year for the 102. And she's not proud of her 100. She's proud of her 100 birthday party picture, but not her 101. She doesn't like that, so she particularly wants to wait for 102 to have a better one taken. So, what a thrill! I know it's a thrill for you folks, even if you didn't know Mom Knoyer back then, even if you weren't one of those cadets that came through, even if you weren't a cadet at all, you may have had contact with her, you may have not. But nonetheless, you know the importance that this lady played. She was another piece of that mosaic I spoke about. She was so important to those guys that came through here, even if it were just on a few occasions that she had to show them the kindness or the warmth that they needed away from home, and the appreciation of someone who cared during those days. And she certainly personified that type of an individual, and still is today probably one of the most unbelievable and outstanding people that I've ever met. And so, Mom, our hats are off to you, and thank you once more for coming
and being a part of this reunion.
You want to hold this a minute? Let's get me. I don't want to miss it.
Well, of course, every year, you know, this meeting gets more dear to me because I think, oh, well, maybe I won't be here next year. I mean just here. I'll probably be around. And my son wasn't too anxious about me coming this year. But I made it fine, had help all the way, and got along fine. I had help ever since I've been here. In fact, the matter, I had too much help. They won't take care of me, and I'm not ready to be taken care of. But anyhow, it's been a delightful, the most delightful, I think, in the 3 years I've come, because of the fact that we got the old cadet club restored, and going back there this afternoon and living all over those memories again was certainly a treat. And I think it's going to be one of the most wonderful places in this old city that they can brag about sometimes and can now. And as far as my work was concerned, I was just simply tried to make a home for the boys away from home. And when they came in to the clubs on their first time, they'd say, well, what's the rules here? We got plenty of them at the field. And I'd say, well, we just have one rule. It's my home, and I want you to treat it as such. And, you know, they were nice kids anyhow, but then I never had an MB in the place in the 4 years I had it. And when the war broke, why, they sent the MPs over to see. The streets were filled up, and everybody was going crazy here in town. And, of course, a lot of them come to the club. They come in to celebrate the war being over. But it was just crowded from the front to back. But it was all our own boys, and I didn't let the other people, several come in and wanted to come in and talk to the fellows, and I said, no, let's keep it this way because I can't take care of them all. And it was a big, big night, but they were such nice boys, all the ones I had was, and I appreciated them, and I think they appreciated me. I have had some wonderful, wonderful letters from them. And it was, I think God just blessed me when He gave me that job, and I feel so good to think that I could have been of some help to them during their scared years, because the poor kids were young, and I look at my great-grandsons now are just the age where these boys were then. And I look at them and I think, oh, how I hate to think of them going away, like these boys had to do, you see. But thank goodness they haven't so far. And I'm very, very fond of young men everywhere, and I've kind of always been a mixture with my great-grandson's friends. And so I do appreciate everything that everyone has done, and this has been a delightful journey this time. And I'm just like that little old battery. I may just keep it coming back.
She's been running around with Mom. She'll tell you all about it. She's going to reminisce a little bit. We saw her open her eyes when she got to George Field.
Yeah. It's a privilege to know her, and now it's a privilege to know all of you and to make new friends. I have written a book about people who live to be 100 years old and over, and I'm waiting for Mr. Hughes. He promised me he's going to live to be 100, he's going to be flying on his 100th birthday, and I'm holding him to that. And I also have a nonprofit organization to honor people who are 100 and over. It's really a privilege to be here. Mr. Lewis said that it's opened my eyes, and it certainly has. It's part of history that I have to, unlike my peer, Jim, who is steeped in World War II history. I must say I'm embarrassed that my knowledge of World War II history is very limited. I've learned a great deal while I've been here. It's a privilege and an honor to know you all, and I was lucky enough to be able to bring my mother along since she is your contemporary. And I'm just flabbergasted. I'm just having just the greatest time. I've loved
the stories that I've been told, and I'd love to hear some more. And as Nikki has been prompting me, she said, now here's your next look. I hope both Mom and I and my mother are back next year. Thank you so much.
Memoriam.
I can't read those things, but I'll straddle it. Basically, what I'd like to do tonight is to remember the people that were here at George Field through all the years who are now deceased. Before me, I have a list of, I think, 99 people that we've been able to contact, know that were at George Field, who have now passed away. Rather than trying to read this whole list, I don't think I'll ever get through it.
Jack, excuse me, can you talk louder?
Oh, yes, I get closer to it. Rather than trying to read each and every one of these names, I think the easiest thing to do for you and myself would be to take about 15 or 20 seconds, just bow your head, and in your own way, pray for these individuals and thank them for what they did for all of us. After the meeting, I had one copy of the list. I know Allie has some more. If anyone would like to go over, check through the list, maybe they can find someone they do know. I noticed some of you have helped giving us the information that you knew about some of these deceased ones. We'd be more than happy to share these with you. With that, I'll end my section of the program.
Don't get out of the room without letting Allie and Mike take a picture. This is the thing that she... Oh, before we get...
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
We'll let Mom draw the chicken.
Go ahead if you want to say something else too.
It's a 50-50 drawing. You get half of what we took in.
Oh, I see.
If you want to take it home, fine. If you want to donate it to the George Field Association, we'll let you do that.
$3 to put in it.
Better shake it good.
Shake it good, huh?
I better pull mine out.
Oh, if you shoot me, I don't know.
The winning ticket.
Everybody get the number out, huh?
The last three numbers. 992.
Good.
We won't say what was in it. It'll be up to the winner to decide that. We don't want her to know, everybody to know how much money she's carrying.
I'm going to do this so they won't run out. Sometimes.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of life. We thank you for the fellowship we have with thee and with one another. We pray that everyone will have a safe journey home and be able to come back again next year. Guide and direct us in everything we say and do, and we'll give you praise in Jesus' name. Amen.
Look, Gotti.
After all pictures and everything else.
Okay, we're going to be pitted. One more microphone, Vicky. All right. We're going to be pitted. All right. And take mine in here.
Take yours.
Wear your what? Short pink dress. Your short pink. Merle's going to wear her short pink. All right. That's what we're going to do. Okay. We're going to be pin up girls.
I don't care. If he's finished, you can all leave. But I'm going to take it till you decide.
My God, you got that panorama, woman. No wonder why.
I will. Did somebody push out a pin up for you? They never told us. We'll get a poster. We'll get posters.
Look at that, look at that.
We'll have to make
I was gonna say, what's that hand doing on that knee, pulling that skirt down?
One more time, ladies. Here we
Trying
go.
to cover it up my knees, Jack.
There we go. One more time. Hold it right.
Mom,
Now look here, Tori.
Mom's taking.
Shut up and look at me.
Mom's taking care of those hostesses up there.
Okay, now we know how to attract attention for the reunion.
Yeah! Hey!
All right.
Hey, we should have done this up on the podium.
There you go. That's right. Okay.
Well, I'm not sure we could live through it. I'm not sure we could live through it.
Okay, Mom's making a toast. Did you turn it on?
Here's to life and laughter with a bit of lower. I'd rather have a morning after than never to have had the night before.
And I'll drink to that.
We'll all drink to that.
There's one more line in there. Here's
Okay.
to you and here's to me, and may we never disagree. But if we do, here's to me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now what I said.
You want to
Do it again, Mom.
look this way too.
I'm sorry.
Just take a moment. Regroup.
Look this way. Look at the camera.
There we go.
Thank you. Great, thank you
Here's
very
to
much.
you and here's to me, and may we never disagree. But if we do, here's to you.
Think we got fun? My hair back.
That's all right, I want to see your eye. I want one of your really running by yourself again. That'll make sure you got it.
Burton, stand over here and get one. Oh. Anybody else?
I want one of them in her mouth.
You gotta be kidding me.
Ready?
One more.
One more, yeah.
Thank you.
Right, just a little bit like quite right. Okay, now that's not happening that much. Now that's great. Ready?
Thank you.
One more. One more. Oh my gosh. One more. I gotta get my two moms in here.
Okay, Mom, you're one.
Hey.
Say cheese.
One more time. One more time. I'm not ready yet. Hey.
Why not?
Okay. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you, one and all.
This